Welcome to People Are Everything, the show that's a bit like Desert Island Discs, but rather than bring music, I ask my guests to bring the 5 people that have shaped the person they are today. And today I'm talking with Helen Normoyle. Helen is probably the most accomplished, in terms of work, person that I've ever met. She's been the Chief Marketing Officer for Boots, for the BBC. She's been on numerous boards. Is currently on the board of the Travelodge, for example. She's worked at DFS, Royal Bank of Ireland. The list goes on. And her main project now is My Menopause Centre, which we'll come to talk about quite a bit in this episode, which she left the BBC as Chief Marketing Officer to go and pursue. And you'll see that it's absolutely core to her sense of purpose now. And we get into all kinds of things in this conversation. She's absolutely delightful. And I know you're going to love it. So sit back and enjoy Helen Normoyle. Hello, Helen. Say that again.
I said it's a roller coaster ride with you, Julie. God knows where we're going to end up.
Well, nobody started the podcast like that before, Helen. Mostly I just say hello. But yeah, let's start with it. It's going to be a roller coaster ride because it might well be. But yeah, hello. How are you? Are you all right?
I'm great. How are you? It's lovely to see you.
Yeah, you too. Listen, I'm going to firstly comment on your books again. It seems to be a theme of mine that I meet all these well-read academic types and feel completely intimidated. I've got a bookshelf now. This is how much I've been influenced by doing this podcast. I have a bookshelf with about 12 books on it. So I'm building up slowly. And actually, probably half of those are mine, the ones I've written. What does that say about me? So no, I'm very impressed with people who have bookshelves. So well done on that. But I was thinking about us today and just like it's going to be slightly odd because normally when we get together, we just get into everything else except this kind of subject. And I was first drawn to you, I think, well, we met at an event where you were doing a talk on your menopause business, which we're definitely going to get into today. And the thing that struck me about you most was your CV. I was like, who is this woman? How has she managed to be all these things in one lifetime? And why haven't I not been trying hard enough? I clearly haven't been trying hard enough because, I haven't achieved anywhere near the success you have. And yet at the same time, you were so warm and approachable. And I think we just had the best evening, didn't we? I remember that.
It was such good fun. We clicked over the table straight away and just had a laugh.
We did, didn't we? And we were in a room full of women and I remember it being a really vibrant conversation, everyone piling in with thoughts and opinions. And I just had a really fabulous evening. So that's how we met. And then we kind of just stayed in touch, haven't we? We've kind of become, I think we're in the friend zone now, aren't we, Helen? I think we can call each other friends.
I think so. I think we have.
Excellent. I'd like to think so. So I was really pleased that you said yes to this. Because I know that you're extremely busy and you have a very high profile and that, humbles me very much. And I very much appreciate you coming on today. So, but before we get into any of this, why don't you share with everybody, I've now bigged you up. You better deliver now, Helen. I've bigged you up, this CV of yours and the pressure is on. Why don't you share with everybody who you are and what you're all about?
I will, but before I do, I just want to say it's brilliant to be on here with you. And it's been such good fun getting to know you. And I'm, one of the reasons I'm on is I'm so inspired by your story and what you've done with your life that it's amazing. It's utterly inspiring and it's amazing. And when we first met, Julie, you mentioned that you wrote a book and I ordered your book on Amazon and read it, which seemed to surprise you. But, I'm sure your listeners to your podcast, if they don't know your backstory, they should get your book. I'm sure you put the details in there. But it's amazing. It just shows you're probably one of the most positive can-do people that I know. And then when I read your backstory, to come through a childhood like that and to be the person that you are today, and you're really inspiring and you just have this lovely warm glow about you. It's just a pleasure to be here today, to be with you. And I love the way you think, ooh, I'd like to do that, and then you just do it. So when I met you, it's over a year ago now, you said, I think I'd like to do podcasts, and now here you are doing them, and you've done an amazing set of interviews already. So you're inspiring, and I think will give other people the confidence to do the things that they think will make them happy in life.
I think I might be blushing, Helen. I don't know. And I've probably got this uncomfortable grin on my face because I don't think anyone's said so many nice things in such a condensed way before. So I'm really touched by that. Thank you. No, you're right. I haven't even really talked about my book that much either, or my backstory, because I'm in the moment now, I guess. And I do sort of touch back on it now and then, but I don't really think about it. And for you to raise it that way is very, very kind of you to do that. Oh, okay. Thanks. I think you're great too. Okay. Enough of this. Tell everybody who you are, Helen, while I compose myself.
Yeah, look, it's one of those things, isn't it? When people say, "Who are you?" you think, well, it should be really obvious and easy to say. But I think we've met, at an event, and I suppose there's one way I can look at who I am, and I can say I'm a CMO, so a Chief Marketing Officer, a NED, another acronym, a non-executive director, and I'm a women's health entrepreneur, and we'll come to the women's health bit in a moment. But I'm a wife, a mum, a daughter, a sibling, and a friend. So, and because I think in our relationship with each other, kind of crossed the boundary between knowing each other in a work and in a corporate context to getting to know each other as friends. And one of the things I've learned over my life is to be authentic. You've got to be your whole self and bring your whole self in. So I think I'm all of those things, and my career and what I do, and I'm sure we'll talk a lot about that, is really important to me. It was a huge driver of things that I've done in my life. But in latter years, as I get older, for me, it's much more about the fusion of both. So I think how I really think about myself now is as an entrepreneur who's a friend of women, who really wants to drive positive change in society and in the workplace for women, and particularly through the lens of women's health. And I'm a passionate Irish woman who, loves being with family, friends, and enjoying life.
I think that's a wonderful summary. I'd agree with all those things. And I really love that idea of being a friend to women. It's like, I don't know, it's obvious in some ways, but really not. Like you have to say it. You have to and I've not heard anybody say that before. I'm a friend to women, and particularly in the space that you're in terms of your ability to advocate and do allyship for women. You're in a position of some authority to do that. So it's not just theoretical, you can do that, you have the means to do that. So I think that's a really great summary of who you are, certainly how I've experienced you in the sort of short months. It is over a year, isn't it, that we've gotten to know each other. But I also think you're very humble about your career history. I think anyone who's reached those, to reach those, to be on the C-suite of those kind of companies, to be a chief marketing officer, and of such esteemed businesses like the BBC, that takes something, and particularly as a female. And also, I love the idea, and I really hope we are going to get into your menopause centre, because to dedicate yourself now to that in the pursuit of helping women come through it. I love that sense of purpose you have about it. And I know that's your sort of main passion. You're very, very professional in your day jobs, and, completely dedicated. But this is your purpose now. I know that about you. So, all right. Well, listen, I think that's a good first start. Before we get into your 5, I always love to ask everybody how they found the process of choosing their 5, because some find it absolutely torturous and some people find it, cathartic and I don't know, very, very spiritual. Where did you come in that range?
It made me very reflective. It was really interesting. So I really thought about it this morning, and since we spoke about doing the podcast, it's been percolating away at the back of my mind, but I really brought some focus to it, because I don't want to over prepare and be here with a script to go through it. It really, and I know it'll come from the heart, and then I'll think about what I want to say and who I want to say. But it really, I went back to the beginning, childhood and kind of worked my way through, they're very distinct chapters to my life. And I thought about the people that influenced me, that shaped me, that are still in my life, that have left. And as you'll see, Julie, when we go through this, I'm not very good at following rules. So I would call it 5-ish.
We'll see. Go on.
But I will get to speak about individuals. But yeah, no, but it's that's why I love the approach that you're taking, and how you talk to people about the 5 people that have really influenced them or shaped their life. I think it's a very healthy thing, and people should do it regularly, because it does give you. It really gives you an appreciation for those people, and for and the wider group of people in your lives, friends, family, colleagues.
Yeah, thank you for saying that, because it was very much when I sort of was thinking about format. I knew before I was going to start on my sort of podcast journey that I wanted something open ended, that wasn't current affairs or tied to any kind of subject matter. You know, I'm certainly not a research person. That's not really my thing. My thing is really talking to people, I guess, is my favorite thing to do. And I've mentioned this before, but to capture someone for an hour and a half and they haven't got any distractions and they just have to talk to me. This is pure pleasure for me. So, but the sort of subtext of it was, let's talk about the people behind the people, in that spirit of I suppose holding a light to that and saying none of us do anything on our own at all. Even the most people who say they're self-made, there's no such thing. We're all products of the people and our environment. So, and I think it's nice to sort of give gratitude, isn't it, and stop and remember all the good, the good fortune and the privilege that we all have in loads of different ways. That's my dog, by the way, whining. It's very unhelpful. Hold on. Where is she then? Oh, she's locked herself out. That's now her. She has to get in on every single one, Helen. I don't know. Hope we can get rid of that post-production. Oh, well, Alan Carr always has his dog doing something. I think it's only fair that mine does too.
Exactly.
All right. Well, listen, I agree. Gratitude to the people that brought us here is a good, healthy thing to do. So, with that said, who's number one then? Who's made the number one spot?
So the number one spot is framed in my family. I grew up in a small village in County Limerick in Ireland, and I've had the good fortune to have had a great grounding through my family, through my parents, my siblings, and my grandparents. So my grandparents lived with us, and so I have 2 brothers and a sister. My parents and my grandparents, we all lived in the same house. My granddad died in 1974, so when I was around 6 or 7. But I still have vivid memories of him. He was just the most wonderful man. And my grandmother lived till 1996, so she was 95, I think, when she passed away. And so the reason I say this is these were important people in my life. And even though I was quite young when my granddad died, he's been an important and still is an important figure in my life. And that love that I have for my family still endures, and we're still really close. But if I were to pick one person in my family, and I am a daddy's girl, Julia, and I know that. But as I look back and reflect on my life, it would be my mother.
Okay.
And my appreciation from my mum has only grown as I've gotten older, because I think I look back now and I can see how much of my drive, my curiosity, and my desire for education and to travel, she helped me with that, and she just supported me. Education was always hugely important for my mother. She was determined, that my sister and I would have a good, and my brothers clearly as well. But, as girls growing up in the 70s, she was really clear. She wanted us to have a great education. She wanted us to have the opportunity to go to university. She did everything she could, to support all of us, to enable us to do that. And she just had this unconditional love for us and belief in us. so it never ever crossed my mind that I would do anything other than go to university, even though very few of my relatives had gone to university, or done anything like that. Both my parents are, they didn't unfortunately have the opportunities to stay on in school and to have further education, but they're hugely intelligent, really well read. And so we always discuss current affairs, politics, and I'm a politics junkie and a current affairs junkie still. We had the best conversations at home with my siblings as well. But if I look back at it, I can just see just how much of a supporter my mother was for me growing up. And she is just such a great source of common sense and support, and she's got some brilliant insights in life. One of her sayings that I really like is, a shroud has no pockets. She's not a materialistic person at all, and a few months ago we were chatting, and she'd had a little bit of a health scare, and thankfully she's doing really well now, and we just chatted about life and about death. And she said, Helen, we're born, we come into this earth with nothing, and we die, we leave this earth with nothing. And what really matters is what happens in between and with people and the people in our lives. And that's really what matters most. And she's a kind, loving person. And everyone who's met my mother, I think, would say that about her. She's just so thoughtful and considerate, and she just puts other people first all the time, and so we all, we work to make sure she puts herself first as well. But as I say, sometimes, Julie, when you're growing up, you see this and you don't appreciate it because you take it for granted. And I wish I'd been a nicer teenager now, but, I can't change the past, but I can be the best daughter I can be now. To her and my father as well, who's wonderful. But as I say, and I love them both dearly, and I am a daddy's girl, but my mom is really, she's just one of these amazingly lovely people that you meet in life.
Oh, amazing. All right. Helen, I'm going to edit this next bit out, but I do need to get this dog in, and then I'm going to pick up on everything we just said. So hold on. What an annoying little monkey she is. Come on then. Honestly. She's so naughty.
Oh, she knows what she wants.
There she is. Can you see her?
Yeah, she's gorgeous.
She
Very
is,
cuddly.
but she won't leave me alone. Listening to you talk about your mum, I don't know. I think it's something that we all want, isn't it? To be spoken of like that, for someone to summarize, no matter what the relationship or at what stage of life, to be told or to be spoken of, someone who's kind and warm and generous and selfless and has given you unconditional love and invested in you and talked to you about the world and showed you all the possibilities and invested in you and, believed in you as well. Like I say, for sending you to university, etc. I don't know. It's so aspirational for me. I want to be that person. I feel like there's like a little, I don't know what it is, like everything I'm doing, I have a little bit of an afterglow in it of is this, am I doing this right? Am I living well? Am I doing good into the world? I'm only here for a short while. Like your mum said, I'll leave with nothing. Am I going to make an impact? Are people going to talk nicely about me when I'm not here? Will I leave any kind of legacy? And I don't mean that in any kind of arrogance. It's not, I want, I want these things or I need these things to be, to feel valuable or whatever. It's genuinely what I want to achieve and spend my time and energy and money on doing. So, for you to have that in your home as your actual mum who gave you all those things, and I've got mum envy anyway. Of everybody who talks about their mums, I'm like, oh, that sounds nice. I wish I had one of those. It's sort of bittersweet for me. I hear it and I love it. I love how you talked about her just now. And I love the little nod to your dad as well. Like, I'm a daddy's girl, but it's really all about my mum. As a mum, I really like that too. I like the idea that, because I know my daughter, for example, total daddy's girl, just all about her dad. But I'd like to think there's a sort of a sort of sacred space for me somewhere. That one day when she's older, she'll say, "I didn't really appreciate you at the time, Mum, but I really do now." So I really like that, and the fact that she's number one, I like that too. So good. What's her name? Can I ask?
Brenda.
Brenda. Does she know all this? Have you ever sort of said all those things to her?
No, later in life, I started saying to my parents, "I love you." It wasn't something we'd necessarily say at home, but I say to I have two boys, my husband, like 1,000,001 times a day. And I
Yeah.
started saying it to my parents in my 20s when I was living in Germany, and, saw them less often, and there weren't mobile phones back in the day. And I realized it was really important. And I do say to her, and my dad after every call, because I love them to bits. I really do. But I don't know if, no, Julie, to be honest, she hasn't heard me speak like this or say just how much I respect and admire her. It was her 80th birthday a few weeks ago, and I did say that about how much all she ever wanted when she just wanted her kids and her grandkids, and my aunt and uncle were there as well, and Margaret, her neighbour and best friend from across the road. And that's all my mother wanted, and she was just really happy, and we were all there to honour her. So I did, and as the eldest in the family, I was called upon to say a few words spontaneously, and so I did share some of that, and I know it meant a lot to her, but I might play her a clip of this podcast, but I will have to say, that's why I say to my father, "I know I'm a daddy's girl, Dad. I love you to bits. I'm just focusing on Mummy." And this one.
But he'd probably agree. He'd say, "Of
Yeah,
course."
he does. He knows, and he knows he knows how lucky he is, and they're good for each other. They're a really good couple together. They've been
Oh,
together
I
a long
love that.
time now, obviously.
I love that. And I've got this such a warm feeling about you all growing up in the same house. I mean, I bet it was, I know I'm envisaging now a place of, like you say, great conversation, world events, current affairs, everything like that, the sort of conversation around the dinner table.
Oh
You
yeah,
don't
we're
see
all a
so
bit
much of it.
fiery, Julia.
Oh, I
We're all
love that
pretty
though.
fiery in my family. So so it's not all peace and harmony and very
No, I
civilized
don't
and
suppose
courteous
it is.
conversation. It's fine.
No, but that's all part of it as well. It's like, this modern world where everyone's sitting in front of their phones at dinner.
Yeah,
Um, I personally really don't like that. I do it. You will catch me doing that now and then, but generally, if I've got a human being in front of me, I really want to talk to them because that's just they've got my attention and I'd like to know them. But generally speaking, I think the young people now they don't get that dinner table arguing, debating, taking a topic and really getting into it. I imagine that's quite rare now with this all the technology that we all are addicted to, frankly. So, but
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Look, that actually is an important point. Maybe you want to come back
mm,
to later. How instead of bringing us together, technologies, I think, making us more isolated from each other.
mm,
But also that I think it's leading us to a place where we don't debate in the way I don't think we debate in the way we used to. And I think debate is healthy. And I think having disagreements is healthy. And listening to another point of view and maybe shifting your opinion is healthy. I do think that it's leading to some of the challenges we're seeing in the world today is the lack of a public square where we all genuinely come together and engage with each other respectfully. But that doesn't mean we will agree on everything, but we can still like each other and not agree
mm.
on things, So, yes, I do think technology is playing a role in that as well.
Oh well, it's algorithm led and it's there to sort of push an agenda and then get us all outraged. We're all addicted to outrage, actually, Helen.
Yeah,
If you think about it,
yeah,
what gets our attention more? We I don't really do social media for that reason. I don't seem to have an off switch. I know when to stop eating a bar of chocolate or finish after two drinks. I can manage myself in that way. But when it comes to sort of scrolling and reading things, it's a weak spot of mine. I find myself going into the comments, seeing all kinds of terribleness and being
mm,
really triggered by it, but somehow can't take my eyes off it. And they know that the clever bods that put all this stuff together. And I agree, it's completely polarizing. And funny you should say about debating. I had a feisty Is that the right? Fiery, I think is the word you used. I had a fiery debate only yesterday with somebody who has a completely opposite view of me than me on a subject. And I just loved it. I mean, we were
Yes.
really going at it. He had his view, I had my view. We didn't agree, but we did change position, actually. I felt that a few points he made were definitely worth me re-looking at something. I may have been guilty of looking at the headline and not the detail. And he definitely learned something from me about a lived experience of something that he was talking about and being maybe just, in my opinion, a little bit judgmental about certain things. And I gave him a point of view that he couldn't possibly have experienced. It did catch his attention, but it was healthy and it was fiery. It was two people completely at opposite ends of a belief. And I came away very energized. I enjoyed it, and so did he. I checked in afterwards and said, "Was that all right for you?" He said, "I loved it. It was great." So quite what people watching would have thought. They might have thought we were having a right set to, but I personally really enjoy it. I like a little bit of verbal conflict and disagreement. I think it's extremely healthy. So can I join your family, Helen?
Yes, you know where to find me if you want.
I've got to go to Limerick.
You go to Limerick. You can come to Limerick.
Okay, quite far, but I'll see what I can do. Great. Well, I love the sound of Brenda, and I'm so glad she's got the top spot, and I'm so glad she's just turned 80, and she's going to get to hear this as a second round of that celebration of her. All right, who's number two? Tell me number two.
So number two. So it's my girlfriends, and there's a small number. So, and it comes from my, being a teenager. And at that stage in life, I was very fortunate. So I went to a great secondary school, comprehensive school in Limerick. And my sister and I are Irish twins. So there's less than a year between us. And when I started school at 4, she missed me so much and she cried. And clearly you could do this back in the day in rural Ireland. They allowed her to start school even though she wasn't 4, so she was really young when she started school. So we went to the same primary school, we went to the same secondary school, we went to the same university, we shared a bedroom. So you can imagine, it really is, our relationship is quite intense. And my sister, I have such respect and admiration and love for my sister as well. So my sister and I went to secondary school together. And I've met, 3 of my best friends with my sister. We met when we were around 14, 15, and we're still bezies. And we still meet up and we still go out and we have an annual event, a weekend away that we do together. And I love it. And when I tell my son who's 15 now, that we've been friends for more than 40 years, it's kind of mind-boggling for him.
Yeah.
Because and so it's really hard for me to pick out one, because we've been this unit. We know we've been through all of life's ups and downs together. There isn't anything that we don't know about each other, and it's all there. And when we meet, it's such good fun. We go back to you. Do you remember what you did? And we went out and we did it. And it's like, and then we go, you're rewriting history. That's not how it happened.
Oh, that's nothing wrong with that.
So it's such good fun. And they are brilliant women, great fun. And I feel very fortunate in that, I've got such love and stability from my family. And then I've got these amazing group of girlfriends, and we've been friends for so long. And then I've picked up a few other really great girlfriends along the way, who've kind of joined the club. So one lady, Fran, who I met at Motorola, and that was, 20, 30 years ago. Tracy, who stepped in and took me in after I got divorced when I lived in the States. I moved in with Tracy and her family. And then Joanna at Boots. So for me, my second one really is my group of girlfriends, which includes my sister. And I'm a godmother to one of my sister's sons, and I'm godmother to one of my friend's sons, and she's godmother to mine. So there's all this interconnectedness, and we all know each other so well. And even though we've lived in different continents and different countries, and we might not speak, with technology now, we communicate obviously very regularly, but there were times it's hard for younger people to imagine the days when you didn't have mobile
Mm.
phones. Like Nia found some letters that I wrote her from Germany. Can you imagine?
I've got a box full of
We were
letters up in
letter,
my loft.
yeah,
I know
and
exactly what you mean.
it's
I
so
know.
lovely. We would write each other letters, and it just that means so much to me. But they have kept me grounded.
Mm.
There's a lot of love. There's feedback that you get, but in a really nice and helpful way. And I also know, Julie, that there's nothing that I can't do that I can't tell them, and
Yeah.
they won't. They're not judgmental. So they have been formative in terms of just knowing that there's that support there. So everyone goes through times, I think, where you feel really lonely, you feel really stupid, or you wonder why you did what. I lived in America when 9/11 happened, and I was recently divorced, so I had a lot of upheaval in my life anyway. And then I was in New York the week before, and it was one of those moments in life. I don't even know why I'm bringing it up now, but it was one of those moments in life where you go, "Oh my God, what am I doing in my life? Why aren't I with my
Mm.
family and friends?"
Mm.
Because I don't know if you can recollect, but all the cell phone networks were down. You couldn't get a flight, so you couldn't fly anywhere, certainly across the Atlantic, if not around the world. And then suddenly, and I was getting off airplanes like they were buses.
Yeah.
I did a huge amount of global travel. And that was a moment where I thought, you know what, being close to my family and friends is hugely important. So that
Mm.
was what made me decide to move from Chicago back to London to be closer to everyone, because those relationships mean a lot to me. And that was one of those moments where you go career, family, friends, and it's like family, friends.
Well, I think that's anytime there's a big world event, our worlds suddenly get extremely small, don't they?
Mm-hmm.
It's I think the pandemic showed us that big world events like 9/11. We can all remember where we were when that happened, and your first thoughts are always to your loved ones, and you realise how few people. We all know a lot of people, and you and I both have large networks, but how few people really matter. And it's a wonder they matter at all. I mean, your biological family, of course, that's what you're born into, but your extended family of friends, the fact that you found each other so young and maintained that relationship, and they still matter to you that much, is such a wonderful gift. I've never managed it, Helen. I've never been part of a sort of a gang of any kind. All my friendships have been sort of ones and twosies, and I have wonderful people in my life. I really am. I'm much loved, and I love them very much in return. But so I do know what it's like to have a friend that you pick up the phone to, and you can just tell them immediately what's wrong without even saying hello. I mean, I've got one friend who particularly, I don't think there's anything I won't tell her, medical or otherwise, and it's not even a hello first. It's like, hang on, this thing's just happened. What is it? What does it mean? And she'll straight away get in there, get into what it might be. But it's like when you think about there's 8 billion of us, and for us to even find anyone that we connect
Yeah.
with, let alone treasure and nurture and hold on to for the rest of our lives, that's really something. And I'm a little bit envious, to be honest. I say I've never achieved it. I find particularly all girl groups very, very difficult. I think I talked about this once on a previous podcast, and it comes into this whole area of female allyship. So many women compete with each other. They they want to they mistrust each other. There's hierarchical issues. There's dominance and submission, and all these kind of, the worst of women can be very, very difficult to be around, particularly if you're quite sensitive. But the best of women, when women really come together, there's a podcast coming out actually next week that talks much about women's groups and women's circles, and the power of it. And same for men as well. Men's circles now are becoming quite a thing. The power of sort of particularly same-sex groups where you can all talk from a shared experience, and you're there in each other's corners, holding each other together, is extremely powerful. So, all right, well, they get second spot as a big group. You really are cheating, aren't you? I think there's about 12 people so far we've talked about. But that's all right. And by the way, I just also wanted to ask you about this. I've never heard the expression Irish twins. It just means just babies that are born close together, does it?
Yeah. Very close together. As a mum now and having given birth twice, I have no idea how my mother did it. Seriously, I think, oh my God, how did you, I'd be like, no.
Yeah, well, mine are close actually. I think my two are 16 months apart, and that half killed me. So to have just as 12 months
Yeah.
apart, yes. What were they thinking, Helen?
Yeah, three days shy of 12 months. So my sister's birthday is the 11th of October and mine is the 14th.
But wonderful that you grew up together. And that could have gone either way, right? You could have ended up really hating each other, but actually,
like I say, it's intense.
Yeah.
And we've had our moments, but she's absolutely brilliant. And we've very different personalities. But she's amazing. She's amazing.
Oh, wonderful.
She's a brilliant sister.
Well, you're very lucky so far. Let's see who number 3 is, or numbers of people in number 3.
Well, so there's two things. So my education has been really important to me.
Mm-hmm.
As you know, Julie, when you grow up and you're not from a family with money and from a family that has a network to get you into something, one of the ways to do the things you want to do in life, which some people might call getting ahead, but just to get to do the things that you want to do is through an education. I think that's why my mother was so focused on it. And I was hugely fortunate that the village school that I went to, the Girls' National School in Adair, it was so small. We had two year groups in one classroom, 16 in each. And I had 2 brilliant female teachers that really stood out for me. Miss Foley, who was just lovely. She took me for my class for First Holy Communion, which is really big. And it is still really big in Ireland, but it was hugely big. In the 70s, and really mattered to me because I was very spiritual as a child, very holy. And Miss Curran, who became the head mistress, and they were bloody brilliant, empowering women. Like, they were amazing. Honestly, all the girls that went through their school, they gave them the best start in life with the education. And then I had the really good fortune. I went to a comprehensive school in Limerick, but it was run by the Jesuits. And there was a small number of Jesuits still in the school when I went there, and I had a Jesuit for religious education. And it was a revelation. We were debating abortion, divorce. We were told there was no right or wrong. It was all about your conscience. So what I got from that, this is hence my love of a good debate, was the critical thinking and the ability to think for yourself and not to, and to own it. And that's really important to me. Personal responsibility and accountability. And I hate being a victim in life. And I definitely think a big part of that came through the education that I got at the school and the Jesuit ethos and the Jesuit ethos of serving others as well. That idea of service and being in the service of others is really important to me too. But if I was to encapsulate it, because, growing up, as I say, I really was very spiritual. I really thought a lot about God and about the meaning of life and a big part of that. So my third person then will be my Auntie Madeleine, who's a nun. Auntie Madeleine was a Salesian nun. She entered the convent when she was 19, and she was a nun for most of her nun life career. She was a primary school teacher across different Salesian schools in England. And I feel very conflicted because the more I then, I love history and looked at the history of the church, I consciously decided not to be a practicing Catholic, which was a big deal, and not go to church, probably when I was 17 or 18, because I disagreed with the church in so much, the role of women. I thought, don't agree with papal infallibility, some of the other man-made rules that came in. But I really do believe in the message of Jesus. And sometimes it feels, I probably wouldn't have said that for a long time, Julie, but now I know I do believe in the message of Jesus. I do believe in compassion. I do believe in love. I do believe in kindness. And when I think of that, that is Auntie Madeleine. She's now 95. She's in a nun's nursing home. She's brilliant. You go in to see her and she'll sing it. She's got Alzheimer's now, unfortunately, but she knows us. It affects her short-term memory, less her long-term memory. And she is full of the joys in life. She comes in, she'll sing a song, she'll stand up, she'll crack a joke. She she is the embodiment of living a life of service and having utter faith. I've never met anyone with so much faith or belief in God and belief that everything will be fine. And when I got divorced, which didn't happen a lot in families at the time, that and I really struggled with going back home, and she couldn't have been lovelier and more inclusive, and that was her message to my parents as well. When the referendum around gay marriage came in Ireland, her view was, God has created all of us. Who am I to argue with God with what God has created and who God has created and how He's created us? Just the absolute embodiment of faith and love. And so she is the person for me, because that she has just lived a life of unconditional service and love, and I find that incredibly inspiring. And it's made me realize, as I feel like I've come full circle now, because I feel I've gone through stages in life. I think when I was younger, I was, really in my mind, but in my spirit as well as in my body. I love playing sport. I played badminton. I love golf, camogie. I loved learning, but I really was quite spiritual. And then I think I fell into my, really going for it with my career and lived mainly through my head. Everything was kind of in my head. Then through the work that I do at My Menopause Centre, which I'm sure we'll come to, it was much more about body again. But now I think I'm definitely at the stage where I'm much more focused now as well on reconnecting with my spirit and really thinking about, what brings me joy, what brings me peace. Because when you look at all the conflict that we have in the world, you get to the point where it's either overwhelming or you accept that while you can't solve it all, what you can do is in the space immediately around you, and how can you bring some peace to that, to yourself and to others. So it's really got me thinking about Auntie Madeleine, the passing of the Pope, who I admired as a leader, and some of the things that he wanted to do as a church. Some brilliant priests that I've met along the way. When we lived in Harrogate, those were wonderful, wonderful priests. I did go back to Mass when we lived in Harrogate, but only to listen to his sermons because they were inspiring. And my husband, who's not a Catholic, came with me as well. So for me, that's why I pick Auntie Madeleine Julie, because that's what she stands for me, and she really gave me that gift.
Well, she kind of embodies everything. I mean, there are so many big themes there. Faith, optimism, not kindness, love, not being a victim, taking ownership. There's so much, and these are. I get the sense from you they're not just kind of words for you. They're you live by these things. These are your values, your principles, your sort of guidelines for living. And when you have someone like that who had such a big impact, it's like I don't know. It must be like having sort of scaffolding around you of how to be, and that kind of comfort that, like you say, you came back from your divorce. She's there. She's inclusive. She accepts you for who you are. She doesn't ask anything of you. She just wants to put her arms around you and say, I don't know what's going to happen, but you're going to be fine. It'll be fine. And I'm not a religious person, but the bits I do tap into as a I don't even know what I'm going to call myself. I don't like to say atheist. I don't like to say agnostic. I'm just not somebody who's been blessed with faith. I think, it must feel amazing to walk this earth with a faith. I'm always quite envious of that. But if you don't have it, then you only have intellectual curiosity. And my intellectual curiosity would always be with Jesus as well. Because I'd be like, he sounds really cool. He sounds like he does the things that I like to do. That I'd want to know him. If I saw him in a market stall back in the day saying all these things, I'd probably listen and go, yeah, I agree. That's right. So I don't have it on a spiritual level like that, but I can certainly identify with that way of being. And also to your point about overwhelm at the moment, I had to sort of dipped out of the world for the last sort of 6 months or so. Because it was overwhelming me. I think this sort of negative forces and energy that seems to be, whether it's inflamed and whipped up by the press and the media that we're fed, or if it's a real thing. I found myself turning inwardly and then very locally to the people that I could have love and trust and influence and feel that I was doing something good. And maybe that's no coincidence why I'm doing this podcast. It's my, I listened to someone the other day who said, find the thing that you really feel kind of gives you everything you want and does other things, know your lane and then stay in it and then just keep doing it and don't get distracted by the things outside of it. And I think this is the thing I'm supposed to be doing, which is talking to people like you. So you can say all those things publicly on a podcast platform like this. And then someone listening might go, yeah, I feel that way too. And spread, some very, very positive messages. So I like the sound of Auntie Madeline. As before, you got in about 12 people again for number 3. There's Miss Foley, Miss Corrin, was it? Corrin?
Miss Curran, yes, who became
Corrin?
Mrs. Liston, but yes.
Yeah. Quite a few. There's some bishops, there's some popes, all kinds.
Yeah, well, Pope is a great man, yes, but he was also a Jesuit. But yes, I was very, very fortunate, I
You
think, with
certainly
the
are.
education I've had.
Yes. Well, all right. Let's see if number 4 is singular. I doubt it.
It's a twin. It's a twin set. Okay, so 4 comes into. So with hindsight, as you know, I didn't know it at the time, but menopause marked a really distinctive new stage in life for me. I can see that retrospectively, but in the middle of it, I didn't realize it. So, as I've mentioned to you before, I realized I had various symptoms of menopause after about having them for several years, and I knew zippo about menopause. And I had my youngest son when I was 42. I probably started going through, started the perimenopause in my mid 40s. The last thing on my mind with a toddler was the fact that I might be menopausal. For me, menopause was 60-something-year-old women. So, in other words, a long way off in the future. I was really busy at work. You mentioned my career. I've had brilliant roles at the BBC, at DFS, at Boots. My work has always been really important to me, and it's a lot of my identity and is an ego has been wrapped up in work, and it is always a disentangling, Julie, doesn't it? That comes with that at a certain point in life, which is good and healthy. But it was the last thing on my mind. And then when it dawned on me that I might be going through the menopause, I realized I knew nothing. And I had hot flushes and night sweats. And for 2 weeks, I thought I had a summer flu. I feel ridiculous now saying it, but I thought it was just some weird summer flu that I just couldn't shake. And then it was going nowhere, and I wasn't sleeping. This is maybe this is menopause. And then I went to Boots and I bought some supplements, which did diddly squat for me. My doctor wasn't particularly helpful. I tried out various things, and then the mum of one of my son's friends, Claire, was training to be a menopause doctor at the time, and I spoke to her, and she was brilliant. She is brilliant. She's now my business partner, Dr. Claire Spencer, and she helped me enormously because she joined the dots. So as so many more women now know, but not enough, there are a myriad of symptoms of menopause, from physical symptoms like hot flushes and night sweats and sleep issues. But what wasn't spoken about then, or really well known then, and still isn't well known enough now, are the impact of menopause on mood and cognition. So there was a time when I honestly thought I had early onset Alzheimer's or dementia, because I'd go into a meeting and I could not remember people's names. And these are people that I worked with day in, day out. Or I'd be in the middle of a sentence and I'd completely forget the second half. And I'm someone who I was all over numbers, figures. I could remember last year's stats, market share, you name it. And then that was gone. And that is terrifying because that impacts your confidence. And it's a clustering of symptoms, and it can get you to a really dark place as well. And so when Claire explained all this to me, and then when I realized I wasn't losing the plot, I wasn't at the end of my shelf life in my career or my life in general, I could manage this, I could cope. And she helped me understand the tools, getting on the right HRT, the importance of lifestyle changes. So that was so empowering. And so out of that, Claire and I had the conversation around there's a real need to support women. There's a real need to empower women with evidence-based information and advice, and to provide, compassionate clinical care. And Claire is a wonderful, compassionate and brilliantly educated menopause doctor. And that's that's where we decided to come together. So I left my role, which I loved as CMO at Boots, to work with Claire to found My Menopause Centre. And that's what we're about, empowering women with evidence-based information and advice to thrive through menopause. And when I came out as a menopausal woman, the number of stories I would hear from women who left their jobs. And as you know, menopause hits you in your 40s and 50s. And for, many women, that's when they're approaching or at the peak of their career. And it can knock you for six. And then you might have, you're kind of that squeezed middle. You've got kids, you might have parents, you might have work. And then it all comes together. At the time you need to be strongest, you can be really discombobulating. And so that's what we set out to do. We're very purpose-led in what we do. We're a private, commercial enterprise venture, but we're very purpose-led in what we do and in what we've created. We do quite a lot pro bono because we recognise that not everyone can afford a private appointment, but we do a lot with businesses and corporates because it's a brilliant way to reach women and to reach all women as when employers provide that kind of support. And that's something that I'm particularly passionate about because I think workplaces there's a business case for it. We can evidence it. It pays it back. Had a brilliant client testimonial last week saying, yes, it pays for itself. We've seen it in reduced absence level, but it improves engagement, retention, and it's brilliant for society.
Well, and one thing that I think, I'm firstly yes to all of that, and I want to unpick a few parts of it. But the one thing that I really love about how you approach this, and this harks back to that evening when we first met, was we talk about it, and you led that conversation, and we talked about it with in such an empowering way for women as well. There's this idea that once you reach a certain age, you're kind of, you're spent, as it were. And I personally, I mean, yes, I had so many symptoms of menopause and I didn't know what they were. But you find out. And yet, how is that? That is nuts in itself, that in 2020, whatever, women are still scrabbling around going, what is this thing that, women for millennia have always gone through, but with just no investment in education, in healthcare. We were just left to get on with it. And our ancestors, the way of getting on with it was to minimize it. It's just a hot flush. You just get this. But there's so many devastating symptoms that can be well managed. But the bit I wanted to get to was, like I say, this idea that if that evening encapsulated for me that if we come together as women, all different ages, that room was full of 20-somethings, 30-somethings, right through to 50-somethings. And I think if I was a young woman listening to that conversation, I'd think, these older women are amazing. And I don't have so much fear now of getting older. I don't worry about it. They seem together and empowered and stuff. And I feel that way. I feel like I'm at the absolute prime of my life. I'm 55 next month and I write it down now and then and I don't identify with it at all because I don't feel it. I feel as strong today as I ever did. I feel fitter, stronger. My mental acuity does let me down sometimes. I know exactly what you mean. You forget your own best friend's name and it is frightening because, society, again, we talk about dementia a lot and cognitive decline is symbolized by forgetfulness. And when you forget something that you really know, when you say, I forgot your name, what it means is I stopped, I sat for a long time going, I don't, what? Is it Helen? No, who's it? And you go through the alphabet and you've forgotten your best friend's name and you can't get it. You just can't get it. And it's really frightening because you think, where is this going to end? I won't know where I live soon. You know what I mean? So, and then you take the time to go and see, services like yours or a GP or whatever. You get the support you need. You get the HRT support or whatever it might be. And these symptoms do fall away and you can have a supported menopause as opposed to it being something that we have to stoically get through. Like we seem to always do with women. We say, just get on with it. You'll be fine. grin and bear it. But we don't have to do that now. And my message to any younger women listening now is, it's yes, it's challenging, but this stage of life can be incredible. I mean, I really mean that. I'm not just sort of saying it. I've never felt so creative, energetic. I feel so sort of content and centered. And
Yeah.
it's a wonderful time of life. And I really want people to hear that, because I think society and culture and everything has made us out to be old, washed up old hags by now, haven't they,
Yeah.
Helen? And
Well,
we're
I'm
not.
so glad you said that. No, but we're not. And the reality is we're probably going to live till we're mid to late 90s, if not 100, which means we're just over the halfway point in life.
Yeah.
So why would you pack your bags and go home at this
Yeah.
stage in life? And we live in, and I say, despite everything that's going on, there has never been a better time, I think, to be a midlife woman in the UK or Ireland.
Yeah.
When you think about it,
I agree.
could it be better? Absolutely. Is it better than everything that's happened in the past? Absolutely. And we've kind of got
Yeah.
to celebrate the wins. And,
Definitely.
yes, we need to address the things that need to change in the inequalities, but let's celebrate the wins. The information is now there. There's an awareness of the gap, and we're slowly starting. We need to accelerate the action that's happening. But we women are now speaking to each other publicly about this, whereas even in private conversations, women wouldn't have shared what they were going through before because of the taboos and the embarrassment. And I don't know, if did you have you ever, there's a reason for my asking you this question. Have you ever watched Father Ted?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, okay, so you'll know. So anyone
Mrs.
who's
Doyle.
listening, who's watching, yeah, okay. So I won't swear, but I will say you get to the point where you give less facts about
Yeah.
what's happening in life. And that comes with age, and it's liberating to start to not in a careless way, but in a way where you just care less about what people think in a healthy way. And I think
Yeah.
that's why I sometimes wonder if that's why there's kind of a fear of middle-aged women, because we'll speak our mind and we're not afraid to hold back in a way that we might have before. And I don't know if, somebody somewhere might do some research that is that linked to the decline in estrogen, or is it just, you have the stripes, you've been there, done it, and you've seen it so many times, like now you actually have to say something when
Well,
it
I
comes
think
up.
it's. Do you know what I think it is? I think it's when we come fully into our sort of feminine powers and our natural sort of womanhood, and if it's fully expressed, I will say. In fact, I said this last night. I was out with some dear friends last night, and one of them has a partner called John. He'll probably work it out if he listens to this. That I'm talking about him, and John is one of these. Gentleman, shall we say, of a certain age that loves the company of women and feels very secure around the company of women, and you get such a strong energy from him that he just thinks we're marvelous and wondrous, and to him, seeing you watch him how he looks at his partner when she's being fully expressed, and she's probably late 50s now, totally in her powers, just full of energy, vibrant, at the peak of her career, peak of her capabilities. And I was watching him, watching her doing this sort of, she was saying something about her work. And I just thought, yes, that's right. It is a very powerful thing to see a woman in particular be able to express herself in her sort of fullest form, shall we say, because so many other parts of our our stages of life are usually external in terms of, we're giving out to people. Like we're either coming into, puberty is a very difficult time for young women. You've then got the sort of child rearing ages, all those kind of stages of life. There's usually in service to someone else and to some, not really thinking about who you are, but you come out the other side, and there is that marvelous speech that we talked about on that evening with in Fleabag, where the character talks about coming through menopause and afterwards saying it's just absolutely marvelous afterwards because she gets her body back. And I so relate to that. it's now mine. I can do what I want with it, and I'm now fully Julia, and I can express myself, wholeheartedly. And to the right audience, it must look amazing. They must go, look at her, she's saying and doing all these things. But it's the wrong audience, and it's really you can't dim your own light to worry about it. But I get what you're saying. Some people might find that quite intimidating and quite difficult. And I say to those people, just stop for a minute and just embrace it. We have so much to give at this age. We have that wisdom, we have that warmth, we have that human condition understanding. There's a lot. And I think if you're a business listening, to really support your women through all their reproductive stages, us at our best. Think about it. If you've been a mother and you're now in the workplace, imagine the transferable skills you're bringing.
Absolutely.
Women are
Yeah.
natural communicators. They just are, because they've had to communicate with non-verbal beings from the moment they're born. We're very emotionally intelligent. We're very tuned into the earth. We're sensing beings. We have very adaptive coping skills. We can multitask. I know it's a cliche, but we can.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
and if you grow to love us and appreciate us and nurture us in your workplace, you are going to get an awful lot back. Just everyone's going to win. So I say to anyone and listening to this, if you're thinking that women like Helen and me are at the end of our careers, we are so not. I feel like I just feel so full of beans, I promise. And I know you do too. So, all right. So, I mean, do you want to pause on, excuse the pun, do you want to pause on menopause? Or would you like to get into that a bit deeper before we move on to number 5? Because I know it's so important to you.
Yeah, it's yes, I'm going to pause and just a couple of other things in it. So if I come back to it, meeting Claire changed the trajectory of my life. So it's one of those things. We met at the school gates in, I don't know, 2012. Little did I know that 7 years later we would set up a business together. It's the movie Sliding Doors. It's one of those sliding door things. What if we didn't move to Harrogate? What if we sent our kids to a different school?
Yeah.
We wouldn't be sitting here now talking about this. My life would have taken, a really different turn. So I find that really interesting, and I'm really grateful to have met her. And in another kind of sliding doors moment, a moment, or where I feel like I've met somebody who will also change the trajectory of my life or help me think of what I'll do. It came through conversations about menopause and work. And so I've met this woman, Sue O'Brien. She is so inspiring, and she's mentoring me now. She wears many hats, but I work with her hat of she's setting up a business called the Mentor Hub. And she's such a brilliant advocate for women. She's incredibly successful career herself. And she's really helping me. So we spoke about, my how I feel like I don't like being a victim in life. I want to be a player, being self-aware and all that. I can really get in my own way at times, Julie. I have a very strong inner critic in my head. And the upside of it, it's given me the drive and the impetus. The downside is sometimes I just don't have an off switch, and it's too much. It's too much for the people around me, and too much for family, and my life gets out of kilter. So I've been on the, to use that overused phrase, but it's accurate, a journey in life and learning. And Sue is really helping me on that front as well, and just helping me to be my best self as I think about my menopause centre and what we do and where we go. So it comes back to your point of, you're never too old to learn, and you're never too old to reinvent yourself.
Yeah.
You've got to believe it, but you've got to do the basics of looking after your body, looking after your mind, and looking after your spirit. So exercising, eating, all the things that we discussed. So when we met at that event, I think what was really important, because there's so many clickbaity headlines about menopause and middle age now in the newspapers, and in some in particular, that it can be really scary, and it'll have the impact that none of us want, which is that women don't engage with it, and they just put it into a box and don't think about it, and then they'll arrive equally unprepared.
Yeah.
Unless they engage with it. So the conversation we're now having about, it can be a bit rubbish, but speak to people, ask for help. Do not be afraid to put your hand up and ask for help. To any enlightened employer out there who's listening to this, provide the workplace support. You'll get it back in spades. Bring middle-aged women back into the workforce. Invest in the training programs to bring them back in, because they're unflappable.
Yeah.
And it's a brilliant blend of experience and new people, and they can be fantastic mentors and coaches for the younger generation coming up as well. So I think if we left with one message from today's podcast, Julia, it's that message of, we've got to back women, and we've got to help women believe in themselves at all life stages. And if you're 50, you've got another 50 years ahead of you. You want them to be a great 50. You want to be healthy. You want to be fit. You want quality of life, not just quantity. So invest in yourself now.
Yeah, here. I tell you, absolutely. Okay, so listen, is Sue now number 5, or did you sneak her into number 4?
She's the twin in number 4, so I've menopause twins, Claire
okay.
and Sue. I have to say, my last one is, probably won't surprise you, it's my husband.
Okay.
And he's really quite amazing. He's like incredibly kind, really supportive. I couldn't have done the things that I wanted to do in life without his support. He's just such a decent, wonderful human being. He's the one that said to me, Helen, just go and do My Menopause Centre, because you really regret it if you don't. He supported me 100%. He became Mr. Menopause. He manned the phones when we launched, because we were self-funding. We didn't have any money to hire somebody, and we were, getting up and running. And I was like, you're an Australian man. No one is going to talk to you. And how wrong was I?
So he actually took some calls. He actually was talking to people about their symptoms and everything.
Phones. He booked in appointments.
Amazing.
Yes, absolutely. He and it was, he found that incredibly insightful, because he had some women on the phone to him for half an hour. They just needed somebody to speak to. It's really, it gave him enormous empathy and understanding. And, he's an accountant and a finance person by background, so he's not manning the phones anymore. But he does all of he does all of the finance side of it, the operations and the legal side. So he stepped in massively to help. So he's just gives me safety, security, unconditional love, and support. And I know I can be a pain in the butt. And he puts up with all of that, and he's just incredibly nice and decent about it. And then if he thinks I'm crossing a line, he's Australian. He'll just give it to me straight as well, which I really love and respect about him as well. He's a confident man, and he took a step back from his career to look after our boys as well, and then built up his own property business. But when the boys were little, and my relatives would say to them, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" They'd say, "I want to be a dad."
Oh, wonderful. Isn't that marvellous? And how did you meet? Do you mind sharing that? How did you meet?
Yeah, no, we both worked for Motorola. We didn't get together until after I left. He came to my leaving party, and we stayed in touch. We went on a few dates. He was the perfect gentleman. I thought, is he ever going to make a move?
Will he be blushing now, or will he go, yeah, she's told that to everybody?
Oh my God, it's like, is this ever going to happen? And then, so this is actually a really nice story. I had arranged to have a New Year's Eve party at my parents' house, organised for friends, family, relatives, etc. to come. And one of my friends in London, who Mike was also friends with, she was having a New Year's Eve party in London, and she invited me and invited Mike. And honestly, all I knew, it was my intuition. I knew I had to go to that party. I didn't know if Mike was going to be there or not. But you know the way when you know, Julie, with your whole body, and it makes no sense. But I knew with my whole body, I had to tell my parents, I know I've organised this party and everyone's coming, but I'm going to London.
Oh my goodness. That's so funny. Yeah,
my parents
have
are very forgiving. Everybody did have a great time, but I went to London. I honestly didn't know if Mike was going to be there, because he'd been invited to a party in Wales as well. And he turned up, and we got together that New Year's Eve. And it was, I knew.
History.
Yeah, the rest is history. So it was, but it was one of those things where I knew I had to listen to my instincts. They were,
Yeah.
it was screaming at me.
Oh, well, he sounds brilliant. Good old Mike. I mean, that idea of enabling each other in wanting to do something, because you obviously adore your children. You can tell how you speak about motherhood and how you talk even just then about him as a great father and the kids wanting to be a father. And, so being good parents clearly is a big feature of your life and your family values. And also this idea of pursuit and purpose and building things and creating things for both of you. It sounds like you kind of ebbed and flowed through those stages of life. Him supporting you when you were at the peak of your careers. I imagine those jobs that you took were quite demanding on you as a leader and also as a parent. So him kind of taking up the slack there, and then vice versa. I'm sure the support you give him now with his property business. And I was reading something the other day about this new model of enterprise inside families. Like we're going a full circle where people are being much more supportive and working together on their businesses, like an old-fashioned cottage industry, shall we say, where the family is making the business run. And they're working together on it, not being spread, all different corners of the earth in different roles, and children being raised in one corner and dad in London and mum in a different area. You know what I mean? It's the idea is to bring everyone together and actually run an enterprise together. This is a new structure. It's always been there, but I think it's really starting to take hold, and I hope to see more sort of families building businesses that sustain them and sustain their children and for generations. That old fashioned way of handing over, okay, in the old days, father to son, but in the modern times, everyone just pitching in and getting involved. And I love the idea of this big Australian mate going, I mean, I'm crap at accents, but I'll give it a go. I don't even, can't even do it now. I've started.
I'm not even going to go there.
I can't even do it. Mike, I won't even try. But you get my point. I just think
I totally get your point. That's why I said no one would speak to you.
How fun would it be you're ringing up, you're nervous, you've never spoken about menopause before, and you're expecting a hello, Helen Normoyle, and you get, all right, it's Mike.
Yeah.
Oh,
but on that vein, so one of the women he spoke to, he spoke to her for about an hour, and he was super helpful. And then she said to him, "Oh, can you tell me the name of your boss? I'd like to email her to let her know just how helpful you were."
Oh, your boss. And he's like, yeah, tell me about it. Well, good old Mike. I'm glad he's made the list, and he's kind of like the finale. And actually, you were having a diversity issue for a while there, Helen. So I'm glad we got one of the boys in there. All right, listen. So the next phase of this format is for us to sort of pause for a minute and reflect on. So you've had this great fortune of all these amazing people. I mean, it's clearly you've been super blessed by a great family, friendship groups, mentors, a great husband. You talk very fondly about your children. Yeah, by anybody's standards, you've had some wonderful people that have come into your life and invested in you and given you so much influence, shall we say. And so I always like to ask my guests, can you now pinpoint, now we've done this process, or maybe you've always known, what are the sort of key aspects of you that you can attribute to these people directly?
I think being real and being grounded. I think my family and my friends have kept me really, really grounded. And they care about me as me. It's never been about a career status or anything. It's about me. And I suppose maybe in part that's why when we spoke, my career is important to me and I'll talk about it, but I'm not defined by it.
Oh, we didn't talk about it for long, did we? We moved straight on.
No.
Yeah.
And that's what I read. And this is why it's been so interesting reflecting on your questions in this conversation. I suppose I hadn't fully appreciated just how fortunate I am with the friendships and the people that I've met through life. And life hasn't been rosy all,
No.
I don't want people to think that I've had this rosy, charmed life where everything has gone perfectly. It hasn't. It's been a roller coaster, and there's been some real lows in all of that. And I am, as Pope Francis said, I am a sinner and I'm a work in progress and learning. But I get great support from those people. And they've kept me, I think, authentic, because I couldn't pretend to be anybody else, because I'm surrounded by real people who really know me. And they're the people that I love most being with and am most comfortable being with. But I get, I suppose, the strength to go out and try new things and be curious. And because, look, you look back on my career, I call it a mongrel career. I've never had a big strategic plan. I've done different things, but I've taken risks. I took a risk in going to Germany in graduation. I took a risk in going to Chicago, for my career. It was a risk going to Ofcom, very left field, going to a regulator, coming as I was from the private sector. It was a risk to go work in DFS as a retailer, never having worked in retail, not having a clue, and of what like for like meant, and going to work in Doncaster, and all my colleagues at the BBC going, what on earth are you doing, leaving the BBC? And I love the BBC. So I think that the stability that I had and have for my family and friends, and also the love of Mike, has given me a great platform to try things and to take some chances, because it's given me a safety net, I suppose. And I hadn't quite thought about it that way until I started thinking about our conversation.
Yeah. No, I'm glad you've joined that dot, because I feel very protected in this world for the same reason. It's like, and I think when you are loved, when you really trust those the loves in your life, and that the people do love you for who you are, you can take sort of more risks with trying different aspects of yourself or trying different ventures, because you will be caught. That I know my friends will never let me fall very far. I know it. It's been tested. I've had some really challenging times in my life, and they stood up and they put this protective ring around me, and I called it the Ring of Steel at the time. It was like a fortress came around me. I wasn't in a very good place, and it was only afterwards I really appreciated it, because in the moment I had no idea about it in some ways. But when I look back, I think, wow, they all just put their arms around me, physically and otherwise, and said, no, this woman here is too precious. We are going to take care of her. And I feel a bit emotional talking about it, because it's like, it's just such a lovely feeling to say, you could take everything off me. You could take, my home, my car, my things. You can take that all away. But you could even try and come for me, but my people will not allow it. They will not allow it. They will not let you through. And I've got little goosebumps now. But it's a wonderful feeling to know that exists in the world, and that you can rely upon it. So.
And it does. It makes you realize, your friends. For me, that's like Niamh and Sheila, and that core along Carmel. It's a real privilege to have those people in lives. You might have come across this Harvard study that's been running for decades now. I think it's called the Happiness Study. But basically, what it shows is, when they come, they do their analysis and they look back over people's lives, and they have the same cohort people. Obviously, as people died, they've moved on with younger groups, from rich people, poor people, from all different backgrounds. And what they found is the thing that most contributes to happiness and kind of quality of life is the number of social connections that you have. So the love and relationships. And it's easy in the flush of youth to forget all of that, and to look at other stuff. But maybe that's the joy of getting older and the wisdom of it. You kind of see the things that sustain you and nurture you. It's not the stuff you buy. It's very nice to have money. It's very nice to have all these things. But it's the experiences and the time and where and who you spend your time with becomes, I find, what I'm prioritizing now.
100%. I mean, and that's that wisdom thing again, isn't it? This is why we're people of our age, men and women. We have such a unique perspective, or not unique, but it's an evolved perspective on these things, and it can be very I don't know, complementary to the energy and I don't know, young people, when you look back of your own youth, full of beans, but not a lot of real brains. So if you put the two together, you've got a really powerful combination. I don't know about you, Helen, but I love working with young people for that reason. They energize me, but I feel that they are hugely benefiting from my wisdom, and I think that's something to sort of stop and think about now and then and go, yeah, I know things now. I've got real, true connection in my life. I know what it feels to love. I know what it feels to lose, have loss, have grief, and all the human emotions. It just makes you so much more a person of substance by dint of just experiencing a lot of things. And I think we overlook that sometimes, particularly us women at this time of life, going back to that theme. All right, well, I can see all of that. All right, next part of the question then. What's next for you with My Menopause Centre? Because my next question is always, how are you paying all of this wonderful investment in you forward? And it feels to me you found your thing. This is it. This is what you are going to spend your remaining energized years on. So tell, is that your core purpose now? Is that the thing you can see yourself dedicating your time to for until you hang up your boots altogether?
I think helping other people and being in the service of others is going to be important to me for the rest of my life. How I do that might well evolve. And this is the thing, I've never planned beyond 2 to 3 years, because I think, why would I box myself in? I might learn something new. So I'll keep an open mind. But what I do know is that with what we're doing now with My Menopause Centre, we want to keep growing it, from a business point of view, but from a purpose point of view. And what I really like about what I'm doing with Claire and Mike at My Menopause Centre is we brought both together. We do so much for free, Julia, that I know, we was our fourth best birthday yesterday. So we had some reflections and I posted some stats. Yeah. So I know, and I'm really proud that from Zippo, we've now created a website with loads of free information, and we've had millions of women come to that website over the last 4 years, and we've created a free menopause questionnaire that gives a diagnosis, and we've had over 90,000 women take that. So I see building the business is really important, and for it to stand on its own and to be commercially successful. But what we're able to do with it is do that and deliver on purpose, because we're helping women. And the feedback is really humbling in the difference that we're making, the feedback from our corporate clients. But that both of those elements are really important to me. So what we do pro bono is really important to me. Yeah. But then through my old school network, the school alumni that I'm in, we support the Jesuit Refugee Service in the UK. They're based in London. And it's so unfashionable to support refugees now, very sadly. And they're really seeing a fall in funding. And no schoolmate and I went to visit them. So I know that would be important to me to kind of give something back. And I don't know if that's going to be time or other, and we do fundraising, so we do that anyway. But there's so many brilliant people out there who just need a bit of support. I'm helping somebody else in Dublin, this amazing entrepreneur woman. We could talk about her another time. So I don't know what it'll be, but I'm really open to the universe bringing the things where I can make the biggest difference to my door, or I'll go out and see stuff.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I like the sound of that, because I like the idea of you building one thing, because you'll build it brilliantly and it will have great substance and impact. But knowing you as I do, I also think there's so much you can do, so many directions you can go with everything that you are. So that the idea that there being multiple ventures, if you like, but with that spirit of kind of service. I'm very pleased to hear that, and I'm the same, Helen. I don't know. I really want to do this sort of until people tell me no, because it's something that gives me a great sense of satisfaction and purpose. I love this. I love talking to people like you, and having a long form conversation about important things and really digging into the people that matter and why people matter and why they are the most important thing in my book. So, but I don't know. I might do something else soon. No, I won't. I'm going to keep going with this. I'll be doing other things as well.
Oh, but you're so creative. You will. You'll find some. You're so creative. You know. You write beautifully. You're an amazing story. You know, it'll just evolve organically. The Julie. That's the thing. That's why. That's why it's actually really good that we can't. I'm terrible on a series or reading a book. If I'm not sure, I'll just flick to the end.
Or even on a murder mystery. Who
Oh,
done
totally.
it?
Yeah,
Get to the end
absolutely.
first, then work back.
And I will totally fake it, and I'll pretend to Mike I don't know who's done it, and I'll go, "Oh, really? Who would have thought?"
That's so funny.
But I'm kind of glad that in this life we can't. We've just got to take it as it comes. You can tell I'm an overachieving perfectionist, control freak at heart. So
Yeah.
I've been on a journey of letting go.
Well, I don't know. I'm going to speak to Mike about all this and see how it is. What's it like being on the opposite side of all of that? That sounds very, very back to your roller coaster theme. Okay, good. Well, listen, this next piece is really about me kind of making sure I'm keeping the momentum going on this because I love meeting people, but I really love meeting people I've never ever would never normally meet in normal life. So I hope you've got someone good for me because I asked you to prepare who should I speak to next and why. And I'm hoping it's something very exciting.
Yeah. Okay, so it's this woman. I haven't told her about this, by the way.
Okay.
This amazing woman that I've met. She's from Dublin. She's setting up a social enterprise. She set up a social enterprise called Hair Together. She's opening a premises in Ballymun, which is a very deprived part of Dublin, probably one of the most deprived parts of Dublin. And she won Social Entrepreneur of the Year in the Image Ireland Awards last week. And what Eileen is aiming to do is, and she's a top-notch hairdresser, is build an amazing salon in Ballymun, but create an academy where she will train kids in Ballymun on how to be a barber or a hairdresser. And she's already got some amazing stories. And Eileen's backstory is, as a teenager, she was a heroin addict. She had a really, really tough life. And like you, Julie, she is so inspiring in terms of how she has, if I say turned her life around, that does it a disservice in terms of what she's done and what she's created. She's got an amazing energy about her. And one of my best friends, Niamh, is helping her because Niamh has a big heart and she's an amazing person. She would be another person for you to speak to. But two amazing women. But what Eileen is aiming to do, again, she will change the lives and has already changed the lives of so many young people with what she's doing. And that is her reason for doing it, is to get kids off the street and to give them a purpose in life. And again, listening to her speak, you realise that she's not only transformed the lives of those kids, she's transformed the lives of the families of those kids, the parents who don't have to worry about where their son or daughter is at 10 o'clock at night. Now, because they found a skill, they found a tribe, they found a home with what she's doing. So I can connect to you, but I think she is amazing. And when I asked Niamh, my friend, if she could just come for an hour just to give Eileen some advice. And honestly, Niamh's like, yep, I can do that.
I'm in.
And just stepped in. Yeah. So this is what I mean about women helping women. There is something really special about it. And this isn't to take from women helping men and women helping each other, but there really is, I love that connection of when women come together to do things together.
Amazing. All right. So Eileen, you're going to hook me up with Eileen after this call. Excellent. All right. Well, listen, I'm introducing a new bit now because I was on a podcast. I was a guest on a podcast recently, the very wonderful Chris Grimes. And I had a brilliant time on his podcast. And at the end, he said, right, Julia, you can now list all the things you want to point people to. And I didn't have anything prepared. And I haven't told you this either. So you're going to go, I don't know. But he said, where would you like people to find out more about you and learn more about the things that you're working on? So this is your moment, Helen, where you're supposed to remember all your URLs and all your .thises and signpost us to all the good stuff you're working on. So sorry to drop this on you, but what would you like to talk about? Where are you going to send us?
Come to the My Menopause Centre website, www.mymenopausecentre.com. one word.com.
There we go. That's all you need to know. Oh, well done. Well done. Very professional. Listen, Helen, I knew this would be a great conversation. I knew I was going to look forward to it. Sorry, I was looking forward to it. And we've covered a lot of ground. And you, as I say, you've been so blessed with so many amazing people. And I'm glad you put it in there that also it hasn't always been roses for you. Because I think when particularly women like yourself who are very accomplished, very, have a lot of achievement, can be a bit intimidating for the younger women in particular who are listening and thinking, well, that's unattainable. That's, that level of perfect living. But actually it is the adversity that's given you that substance and your ability to achieve as much as anything else. So yes, you've been blessed with some wonderful people, but also the adversity that you've overcome has created the person you are. So I'm glad you kind of layered that in there too. So, it's just been an absolute joy to talk to you. Is there anything else you'd like to say before we press stop?
No, just to say thank you, Julia. It's so easy to talk to you, and you're just fabulous at doing this. So thank you for creating such a lovely space.
And, I'm going to make loads of clips of this show, and they're all going to be you complimenting me. None of the other content. No one's going to hear about My Menopause Centre. No one's going to hear anything about it. They're going to hear about you complimenting me. That's the only clips I'm going to share. No, I'm just kidding. Listen, it's been an absolute pleasure. Please don't go anywhere. I'm going to press stop, but you mustn't go anywhere. Wait there. Thank you so much, Helen. See you. Well, that was Helen. And I don't know, there's something about Helen. Again, it just feels like we've known each other forever. We are friends now. Genuinely, we are friends. And I always look forward to seeing her and catching up over a glass of wine. The conversation is always interesting. She is a very interesting person. So if you like that conversation, please like, subscribe, share, or maybe get in touch and maybe you can share your 5. Until the next time, take care for now. Bye-bye.